SOLIDWORKS allows you to change the transparency as well as hiding out components, and this can be very useful while working in parts and assemblies to see different features and components that you wouldn't be able to work with otherwise. You can see right now I have an enclosed assembly, so it might be hard to work with certain components. And so you have several options. If I click on the top face, I can hide this component out, and that'll allow me to access the components on the inside of this chassis. And I could hide out several other components if I want as well. It's important to note the difference between hidden and suppressed. Hidden is still loaded into memory and it still rebuilds, so it will use a little bit of performance. And suppress will take it out of the memory, or rather it won't access it each time you rebuild the assembly. If you have a bunch of hidden components, you can use the show hidden to come in and see what you've hidden out. And each item you click on will allow those to be shown once more. So you can see that these hard drive chassis are now showing in the regular assembly state. I'll go ahead and show the fan mount and the server cover once again. The other option you have is to change the transparency, and this will simply make the component transparent. So you'll still be able to see the component or subassembly, but you'll be able to select right through it. And you'll only be able to select the transparent component if there's nothing behind it. So if I try to click on the cover, it's going to take me straight through to whatever component or subassembly is behind it. I can go ahead and come back to the server cover and turn off that change transparency. You can also access the HideShow state and the transparency state of an item from this menu. If I click on the component icon, it'll hide it out, and if I click on it again, it'll bring it back. The same is true for the transparency. If you do want to isolate out a component or a subassembly, you don't actually want to go in and hide out everything else. All you have to do is right click in and go to isolate, and that's going to show that specific component or subassembly. Another reason why it's useful to break your different sections of the assembly up into different folders is that you can right click in and suppress or hide out certain things. For example, all of those fasteners are now hidden. If you have different areas of the assembly that you're going to be working on specifically, it's good to set those into folders so you can suppress or hide those out as needed. The last thing you may have noticed when working with components, if you say edit part, you'll notice all of the other parts become transparent. This is the default setting within SOLIDWORKS. If you go into Options and Display, you'll see by default it's Force Assembly Transparency. You can choose to maintain, which means if you have a few components transparent, those will stay. Or if you say Opaque Assembly, it's going to leave everything as opaque. But that's how you go about controlling the HideShow states and the transparency of components and subassemblies.